So another big theme, early peoples. So I've come to the museum where we're going to be, some of us, sketching on Monday. I'm not a huge fan of Paolozzi's work generally, but I think these display cabinets for jewellery, body adornments from the past are fantastic. So I'm going to be doing some sketching as a way of, as before, collecting material for putting together, developing some ideas on this theme. So I've been looking at this. Well, everything in this part of the museum is obviously to do with early peoples and its artifacts. So we don't have the people, but we do have the things that they've made. And very often there are representations of people, of figures, of animals. And I find that an interesting theme to want to explore. How to perhaps depict something about people, about human life, without necessarily having the people, but only having the objects that they've crafted, and perhaps thinking about the reasons why they have crafted these objects and relating it, to ourselves as artists and makers. So I'm very interested in the depictions of human figures. There are some astonishing little ones here. I've tried to photograph them, and I will be supplying you, those of you not coming to the museum, there will be, of course, photographs. But some of these little figures are I find very moving. Really, the depiction of human life from such a distant past. And what I want to try and explore in my own images is ways of conveying a sense of the past, a sense that these people, these artifacts are from long ago. There's something elusive. I want there to be something elusive in the images I produce to convey that idea. What strikes me about some of the Pictish art that we have here, some of these Pictish symbols of animals, is just how fantastic they are as designs. The simplification, the stylization of these creatures. So I thought I'd do a couple of drawings here of some other Pictish symbols. And I thought, in order to explore that idea of the past and these images, my versions of these images perhaps having a more elusive quality, I thought I'd try the oil bar. So I'm putting the oil bar down first, and then I'm just drawing in with a pastel pencil. And as I say, these are just fabulous, simplified designs. So the challenge really, there's lots of very interesting artifacts, very beautifully produced, sometimes, so-called primitive objects with their designs and their very impressive artistic quality. But the challenge is what can one do with this material? So working with something like this simple design, I'm just going to try and make the material work for me a bit. So it's a fairly straightforward line drawing, but I'm working into it with my pastel pencil and my oil bar. and trying to generate some kind of version of this artifact that perhaps says something more than just the representation of it. And I want to convey something about its age, its distance. I'm experimenting a bit just with putting it on with the oil bar and then scratching it off a bit. So I'm thinking that for this project we perhaps won't work with a model this time, but we'll spend time on some different techniques where we can take some of these artifacts, some of this material as our starting point, and look at ways of depicting them, ways that will create associations and atmospheres that, as I say something about maybe their timelessness, about their age, and so on. There could also be another take on fashion. Plenty of the artifacts in this part of the museum are jewellery and body adornment, and again made by hand with astonishing delicacy and precision. So I'm collecting something here about some of these brooches. They in turn are often decorated with animals, well yes, it tends to be animal. Animal designs, stylized and simplified. So my plan, in as far as I have a plan, is to begin with the usual sketching at the museum or from photographs, which I'm happy to supply, or maybe you'll find your own reference material. And then I thought if we made it almost a sort of still life artifact-based project this time, there might even be scope for those who want to work three-dimensionally. If you're interested in putting together something sculptural. But we'll begin with some sketching, collecting material, and then just really looking for a way of developing the theme, having something to say about these objects of the past. Is it something about the past? Is it something that we can immediately identify with as very much, you and I are makers and producers and need to be creative, and that's what we're seeing in these extraordinary things from long ago. Quite a lot of the displays are to do with materials and tools. Again, things that we're, as painters and people who draw, we're very interested in that as well. How do you make things work? And what materials are best for a particular task? Again, following on from fashion and the things that we looked at last time, making things from leather. I love when you see some of these artifacts that are incomplete, but you can just identify that there's enough survived to identify it as a laced shoe or something else. And maybe that can be something in the way that we might draw or paint, that things aren't complete, aren't stated literally, but actually have this, as I keep saying, slightly elusive quality. I'll, as usual, be putting together an email brief with artists for you to look at, and some of the people who come to mind for me, I actually think of someone contemporary like Victoria Crowe, who very often uses objects, artifacts, often from the past, or makes reference to the past in her work. Other people like De Chirico. So it can be helpful to find some references to help how to locate some of this material and begin to see what to do with it. So closing time has brought this short presentation to an end. But we could just see these guys on the way out. So I hope I've given you enough of direction for a start. And as usual, I'm pretty confident that the combination of working on collecting material, working together a bit, seeing how others find associations and ways of developing the theme will make it work for us all. So we'll see you Monday.